Justin Thomas, man, King of Kings, Mod King. You got 4 wins or 3 wins, 3 world championships, fast time of the day, and then followed that up with the second fastest time of the day. How does that feel?
It feels good, Ryan. Just was, yeah, trying to keep my head down.
Well, you got all the right in the world to enjoy this win, man. That was a good weekend.
Thank you. I
What
appreciate
what
that.
was your so talk, let's jump right into the your fast time of the day, 9 mod final. You ran a 1:15 and a half. There were only 4 riders that clocked runs under a minute 20, and you did 2 of them. What was that run like in 9 mod?
In nine mod, that run, I knew I needed to be a 44, 43 across the first cat track. So I was trying to push down in the bottom, try and make up as much time as I could on everybody. And then going from the first cat track to the top, just try to be clean and consistent, not get too slowed down anywhere. And look ahead, breathe. During that time, I think there was actually a little snowstorm that came through, so it got a little harder to actually see, but luckily it all came together and worked out. I was on my game pretty good this last weekend. Felt good and was driving with the course and snow conditions
Oh,
really
for
well.
sure. So the top half of that mountain, the gates were pretty straight. You guys were kind of on the east side of the course, and yeah, like you said, a snowstorm rolled in, and the visibility was bad. How did you just go so flipping fast? I mean, everybody else was fighting holes and head walls and rocks, and how did you just keep your speed up?
After nine mod, I I felt just really aware of the course and where the problem spots were and where I needed to be to help promote myself to be able to get through those spots efficiently with the minimal amount of issues and hitting the as little bumps as I could and just trying to keep momentum. Yeah, just trying to see it, memorize the course, and luckily my stuff works really well. My suspensions and snowmobiles and everything works really good.
I was going
I'm
to
able
ask you
to
about
use
that
it.
too, because some of the other riders, varying brands too, just seem to be bouncing off everything and really deflecting off obstacles in the hill. Where no matter what you hit, you were able to keep your head level. Do you attribute a lot of that to your rear? Because you're running your Thomas Factory Racing rear suspension, your glide rear suspension. Do you attribute a lot to that, your suspension setup?
It definitely helps. Absolutely. I got second open stock running the stock suspension, and it definitely doesn't eat the bumps like the glide does. The glide I can get the front of the sled up quicker, but then also when it takes a front impact, it doesn't deflect off. It just kind of absorbs it a lot more like an easy ride used to.
Yeah.
Problem with the easy ride is you couldn't get the easy ride to turn, where the glide I can actually turn quicker than stock, but then it doesn't get deflected off when I'm taking head walls.
So let's back up to the beginning of the day. So you qualified 5 for 5, which not everybody did this year. It was kind of a unique year at Jackson this year. Not everybody qualifying for all their classes. So 600 mod, you begin with a win, and at the first half of finals day, the course is set up. The gates are different. You guys are crossing the hill a lot. So 6 mod was a totally different run than 9 mod for you, right?
Correct. It was. So six mod, nobody had gotten over the hill yet. That through six stock, six improved, and I was the first one out in six mod. So I was kind of setting the pace, setting the tone, and I was like, man, is it even doable? Just because I mean, it was really slick. The snow was stiff. There was traction, but then you'd go to no traction when you went to cross the old rut from the day before. And so it was very difficult to one, just keep control of the sled, but two, find traction and get it when you needed it, so it didn't high side you or get you off course, get you too close into a gate or something. I just tried to put a clean run in, tried to just keep the sled as flat as I could, keep the screws down biting on the snow, and luckily it worked out. There's two or three times in that run where I'm like, oh crap, we're going down, but just kind of kept the throttle on, and it worked out. We pulled through.
Yeah, so you were
You know,
the only time over in not only 6 mod, but from 6 stock through 7 stock, 7 improved. Nobody made a time. Riley's the only time in 7 mod. So you and Riley are the only two that really made it over the top in finals up until 9 stock.
Correct. And in that initial set that they had on the course where they had us crossing the old rut so many times,
Yeah.
Riley and I are the only two that actually made it over that course.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy. So then they
You
changed the
know,
course. They realign the gates, move everything over to give it a straight shot going into 9 stock. And then 9 mod we've talked about. Open stock you mentioned a little bit, and then open mod. Talk about your open mod run because that was the second fastest time of the day.
yeah. So in open mod, what I run a 1:16.8, I think.
Yeah, yeah,
So in open mod, again, at this time after 9 mod, I felt like I had a really good understanding of the course and where I needed to be fast. In 9 mod, I jumped the catwalk, the first catwalk. In open mod, I actually didn't. I opted to not due to the course degrading. And then also consistency. I knew I was later in open mod and knew what I needed to do. I knew that I believe Toby Shepard got second with a 1:20.
yeah. 120 and a half. So you won by nearly four
Yep.
seconds.
Yeah. So I knew if I ran anywhere close to my 9 mod run, I would win that class. And so I just tried to keep my riding tight, not get too loose anywhere, try to put the sled where it needed to be so I didn't have to deal with getting bumped or bucked off. And, luckily I was able to keep good momentum everywhere and get through the slick spots without trouble. And, just looked ahead. Tried to take each race like one run at a time and not look at it big picture. Because, I get nervous just like anybody does. So when it comes down to it, you just try to lay the best run you can.
What did you think of
Look at it that way.
what did you think of the snowpack and the gates in general this year?
The snow was interesting feeling. Later on in the day, it would get really spring riding, but early on, it was really icy and stiff. But there was still traction to be found. You just kind of had to know where to look for it. So, like, I was always trying to find, like, ride right on the edge of the rut, banking off the fresh snow, getting traction, then come back into the rut where it's mostly slicked off and was a lot of rocks. The gate set, initially, they were setting the course pretty tight up there around, what was that? The rock garden, really, I
Yeah.
guess, in between second and the top. You know, as we've already talked, when only two people get over the course, they might need to adjust something just so it's a little more of a show, people getting over. But there were still plenty of high marks happening, but it enabled everybody to be able to try to push the envelope and actually go for fast times rather than just survival and finish the run.
Yeah, for sure. So you've had other good weekends at Jackson in years prior. Where does this one rank?
This is definitely my number one Jackson. In 2018, I had a pretty similar Jackson, but not quite as dominant. I did walk away with King of Kings then as well, but this was the first time going for Kings where Keith and I went head to head, and I was actually able to come out on top, especially at Jackson.
Yeah, so talk about that, just that last run of the day for you, your King of Kings runs. So Keith won stock and improved King. You win mod King. So it's just the two of you, like you said. What was that final run like?
Well, Keith got to run first. He chose to run his stock boost, and he ran a 1:16.5. Was that what he ran? Somewhere right in there.
I believe so, yeah.
So Keith, was right there in the time, and I'm like, shoot. I knew from my open mod run, and the course hadn't had many people on it since then, that as long as I more or less held it wide open a little bit longer and just kept my run nice and tight and didn't have any mistakes in it, that I could run a 1:15 again. And so I just went into it knowing that I could do it, having that confidence. And yeah, just went up there and it all worked out and I executed on it. And I believe I ran a 1:15.15. I'm pretty sure is what I ran. And, the course, some of the bumps gotten beat down a little more since open mod. So it enabled me to go a little faster in a few spots. And luckily I was able to keep it on course and keep it where I needed the sled. And it all came together really good.
So were you ahead of Keith at the bottom half of the hill? Were you looking at your split
I
times?
believe my dad told me I had him by 1 second at the bottom. And I basically just maintained that through the top as well.
So pretty close through the top. Yeah. So that was interesting. That comes down to one of the closest races of the day is you two going for King of Kings.
Yes, that, as far as I think between the gap between first and second, I think it was the closest race of the day, because most of the races, it was actually like a 10, 6, 4 second gap between first. Like, you had one guy that got through cleanly, and then the rest of them usually had a bobble somewhere. So there's pretty
Yeah.
big time gaps between first and second.
Yeah. Most were gapped, and that's pretty good racing for a weekend. You had a half-second gap in 1,000 stock, and then some of the Pro Masters were pretty close, but everything else was pretty spread out.
Yes.
Yeah, for sure. So Justin Thomas, you go 5 for 5 in qualifying. You get top fives in all 5 classes. You win Pro 6 mod. You win Pro 9 mod. You win Pro Open mod. You get fourth in 7 mod and second in open stock. You go on to win Mod King and King of Kings for 2024 at the World Championship Hillclimb. Congratulations. One cool aspect of this is you push Keith back from getting his 9th King of Kings for another year at least. So give you a little time to catch up on him.
Yeah, that's just it. We've been chasing Keith a long time. We were able to get ahead of him in 18, and then had a few good races, and Keith put some work in and got back ahead of me, and been trying to catch up ever since. Keith's pushed the sport to new heights, really, and everybody's just kind of trying to catch his coattail. Keith still had a killer weekend. Still came out with a stock king and an improved king, and then in terms of everybody else, that's a pretty stellar weekend. But for Keith, it's not his usual weekend, right?
No,
So
kind of an off weekend for
it,
him, but you definitely dominated
yeah.
this week. You dominated this race.
Well, I appreciate that. It's nice having everything come together, and just try to keep my head down, finish the last few rim shot races strong, and just keep my head down, keep focusing on getting better, fitness wise, making sure my equipment's the best. You've talked with me before. I always at least believe in my heart that my snowmobiles are the best, out of everybody's. Even though a lot of the stuff, motors and all that stuff is a lot more controlled now and a lot more consistent between everybody. But as far as being able to harness and ride your snowmobile at a high level,
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
try to keep an edge there.
All right, Justin, we'll let you go. Justin Thomas, again, 2024 King of Kings. Congratulations. We'll catch you later, man.
Thanks, Ryan. Have a good one.
Thanks for listening to this interview with Justin Thomas, 2024 Jackson Hole Snow Devils World Championship Snowmobile Hillclimb King of Kings. Today's show is brought to you by Polaris Snowmobiles. Check out the Polaris Pro Chaos RMKs at your local dealer, and also check out 320ranch.com for your next snowmobile trip in Big Sky, Montana.